This is your Neepawa Town Council Debrief for the March the 21st, 2023 meeting. The debrief will take you through the key issues being discussed by the town and provide a bit more information on what they mean for the residents. This week's meeting was again a lengthy one, so the debrief has been produced in two parts. This week's meeting kicks off with a public hearing regarding a property on Adelaide in the southeast corner of town. This piece of property has been subject of some disagreement since it was first sold by the town for development in 2018. And we again see some objections to the newest proposed variance order, which is to reduce the minimum lot size to be able to subdivide a 6th lot within the parcel of land. While many of the objections are to the size of the potential home and the impact on property values in the area, others were over concerns about drainage in that area of town. As we all know, that end of town was heavily impacted during the Canada Day flood of 2020. Now, Council will be hearing the speakers for and against this proposal, but they will not be making any decisions until the second half of the meeting.
This is application B01-2023-N, and owner of the property is Big and Rich Limited, applicant Sherry Francis Christensen, TBS. Proposed a variation, and there's 3 parts to it. It's varied to allow the minimum site area for the proposed lot 2 to be reduced from the required 4,900 square feet to a proposed 4,097.9 square feet. Varied to allow the minimum site width of proposed lot 2 be reduced from the required 50 feet to a proposed 41 feet. And varied to allow the minimum side yard setback of the existing deck within lot 1 adjacent to proposed lot 2 be reduced from the required 2 feet to a proposed 1 foot 3 inches. This is all within the RS residential single unit zone. Area affected is lot 15, block 30, plan 348, and part of Walker Avenue closed, more specifically being 350 Adelaide Crescent. And the reason it's important is to satisfy the subdivision requirements to sever a portion of land from a noted property for residential development. So these variations, these are all requirements of the zoning bylaw. The minimums, the proposed lot doesn't meet the minimum site area and width. The variation is required to have them approved. And the third part being the deck. The existing deck can project within 2 feet of a property boundary. As the proposed boundary is closer than that, we chose to have it as part of the variation as well, just to keep things clean and right.
So the conditions that when we approved the subdivision, we had subject to variances, and wasn't there one of the variances that are on the table today that has actually approved?
From the original proposal. The original subdivision proposal was, if I remember correct, for a lot of 33 feet. That's since been retracted and reworked to increase the new proposed lot size. Yes.
Okay.
So the original variation would have varied it from 50 feet to 30 feet, and then the site area from 4,900 to, I guess, somewhere 3,300. So that would have been the original variation. So, but that one was pulled back, and the applicant revised the subdivision to increase the lot size. Yes. I do have a couple emails to read in from our public circulation. So with the variation, the notification goes out to anybody within 100 meters of the property, and we received two means of communication.
I think we also have someone else that wants to speak in opposition.
Yeah. Good evening, Mayor Headley, Town Council, and administrative staff of the Town of Neepawa. My name is Aaron Pudlow, and I'm the property owner directly to the east of the Big and Rich Limited Development. I strongly oppose the variance application from being approved this evening for a couple of reasons. The first being drainage concerns. There's a tremendous amount of water that flows down the large hill on the west side of the Big and Rich Development property through the rock property towards my property. And as the developer for Big and Rich is designed, the water flows northward from Watson's property to the south of me, along my property's edge, along the northern ditch on the north side of my property. Most of last summer, including the times that were dry with no precipitation for extended periods, there's water sitting along the side of my property. With the addition of another house, where will this water go? Secondly, I have concerns regarding the present state of the sewer lines in my neighborhood, as they are very old. Will they be able to properly handle the increased flow from the new homes already built and additional new home that is being planned? Having the opportunity to be on town council during the previous term has allowed me to see how the sale of this property not only affected our immediate neighborhood, but also the entire town of Neepawa. Prior to the development by Big and Rich, the property was meticulously looked after by Murray and Diane Watson and their family at no cost to the town. It was a great green space area that was well looked after, safe for the neighborhood kids to play, and for the entire community to enjoy. Having an opportunity to see how much it costs to maintain green space in such areas as the Flats and Riverbend Park while I was on town council, this was a substantial loss for the entire town of Neepawa when the green space was removed from our neighborhood. The Watsons covered all costs and labor to maintain the area. It's important for the town council members to be aware that the entire property being developed by Big and Rich was sold to the developer for $20,000. It presently has 5 new homes built, with the plans to add 1 more home if this variance is passed later this evening. How much did the town of Neepawa lose when this decision was approved to sell this property to Big and Rich at the town council meeting on March 20th, 2018? Looking at how much it would cost other builders to purchase lots necessary to build 6 homes easily would have given the town of Neepawa enough to resurface a significant length of roadway in our community or put towards other projects. I hope the present town council, as well as future town council members, remember that properties available for housing in our community are very limited, and that both local and out-of-town developers should receive a fair treatment when given opportunities to develop. Properties being sold must be at a fair value for all interested developers. Green spaces within our beautiful community are also very valuable, and I hope that other gardens and park areas within our community do not face the same fate as the property has received. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Darren. And then for speaking in favor of the application, David, if you want to move on.
Good evening, everybody. Jim Suski, representing Big and Rich. We originally bought that property under the assumption that we would be able to cut that 33-foot lot back out in grandfathering it, which we found out that we couldn't because the land titles had a rule for that because it was had to be tied to that closed road. So when I finally decided to try to go through the subdivision, we applied and you guys accepted it. But then when we found out going through the process that I had to get a variance for a small lot, where I figured out that I could make that lot bigger. So I could go with a bigger house to try and make it more appealing to the neighborhood. So we reapplied, we backed out and we reapplied so that we could do it properly. Otherwise we'd have another long skinny house in there. So our goal is to try and make that space usable, because now that we've developed the rest of it, that's just a big crazy side hill, where if I could put a house in there, I can regrade everything and make it better. Plus we've also paid money to get an engineered drainage plan to make sure all that water that goes by all those properties goes out into the town property ditch and out across wherever it goes, like goes across the street or underneath the street now. The town's fixed that corner up. So we're just assuming that everything should be good because we're going to make it better and have one more house in that development, which adds more money into the tax system, which contributes to long-term gain for everybody. It should hopefully add some more money and funds for the infrastructure.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah.
What size of house would you be considering building now versus what you had for your original?
That one, now that with the bigger size, we're gonna go, because of the side yards, didn't apply for a variance for a bigger house to intrude on the side yards, because we have 6 feet on one side and 10 feet on the other. So I was gonna go with a 20-foot wide house by 42 or 40, it's just under 1,000 square feet, but it's 20 feet wide, which is wider than the last two that we did on that street. And then it allows for 16 feet of side yard to the east, so that we can have a proper walking path on the side of the house and have another 8 feet left over for a drainage ditch so it can be maintained. Because if there's ever a problem, I wanted enough space there between our property and Pudlow's property. If you have to get a machine in there to clean debris out or maintain flow, that we can do that. Otherwise, if we made it smaller, like if I went to the 10-foot side yard, which I could by bylaw, I wouldn't have enough room to get a machine in there to do any excavating or remove snow or debris or broken trees or whatever you have. So that's why we went with a 20-foot wide building, or we're planning on. Anything else?
But at this point, we're not approving any actual housing plan, it's just strictly the yard and the setbacks, right? Because that house design could change, there's nothing,
The variation for the lot size, yes, and the only side yard variation is for the existing house to the proposed value.
The only other thing is the drainage plan has that size of that house on it.
okay,
Like the engineer took that all into
It
consideration.
shows a 20 by 50, 1,000 square foot.
Yeah.
so at that point, you're not looking at building another home immediately to the east of that, because that was creating 2 lots, right? When we did these variations, right, did it not create 2 lots?
So it's just taking,
It's taking one big lot and making 2 lots out of it.
The house,
so we're only creating one more lot.
so the house that's there, it's its own lot, and then the new created side lot is where the new build is.
Yeah, I just want, but so there won't be another house immediately to the east of that, this will be the last.
That's the last house in that property.
There's no room.
Okay,
So you've got an engineered draining plan, you've got your slopes for safety and access, you're dealing with the minimum size requirement of the house, so that's big enough. You've got line of sight, your elevations are good, your building inspectors looked over the plans, and what we approved for the subdivision you have improved on. And so the sewer flow, I would ask, Denise, could you comment on the sewer flow?
I'd have to look what our sewage model would dictate for that one, but that street isn't a small street, so it's already got an 8-inch sewer on it. We just have to look at whether or not that 8-inch would have to be upgraded in future years to accommodate flow, and that same flow would be affected by Hillcrest development too. It discharges into that line, so those are all factors we look at if we had to upgrade the street.
That also, just to add one more thing, that lot is serviced. When we serviced everything when we started, we actually serviced that lot because we thought we could. It was just a technicality through land titles is why we were going through all this.
and this remains a single-family home?
Yeah.
Strictly a single-family home?
Yeah.
Okay.
Following the public hearing, Council heard a presentation from Don Walmsley, Executive Director of Neepawa and Area Immigrant Settlement Services. He was briefing them on the mandate of the organization and the growth it has seen over the past 10 to 15 years as the town immigrant population increased to approximately 45% of the entire population of the town, and as well on some of their most recent projects. These include a pilot project that assists with the integration process right from infancy and even prenatal care.
In 2008, an agency was established here. It was a single person. That's when High Life moved from being through the Ontarian Association that built it, started to come in, and they recognized that they wanted to expand, they needed to look at new people coming from other countries. So they began their program. It really started in 2010, and really started to gain momentum. So in essence, High Life has gone from 400 employees at the time to 1,600 plus. That's greatly due to immigration, and High Life does it really well. They understand the process, they understand how to work with the provincial nominee program, and there's been all sorts of sort of changes and variations going along. The upshot is they bring over regularly 200 temporary foreign workers consistently every year. That's their attrition rate, and their attrition rate is below industry standard. But what's also happened is retention. And so the retention we see is people come, work here, they may leave High Life, but they like to stay here. They like the community, they like the people, they feel welcome. Hence we've got this rapid growth. And probably we are the fastest growing community due to immigration, definitely within Manitoba. And we are noted actually across the country. Neepawa, funnily enough, is well known and respected in the Department of Immigration, Refugee and Citizenship, which funds these kinds of programs. And that's kudos to the community. And that's really good. So in 2008, we had one person. In 2013, there were 3 working in the situation, and they were based out of the Resource Center, the old Resource Center. And then, with repatriation happening, the move was made to the old co-op building, where the agency is currently settled now. When we moved to the new co-op building, I have to clarify, I was mistaken in the numbers I gave you the other day. We had 2 salaried staff and 2 part-time, 1 part-time teacher, 1 part-time childminder. At this point, we have 14 salaried staff and 4 part-time. So during the course of that time, when we're seeing individuals as permanent residency, it's not just simply cataloging them, having them come in and do the intake. We are targeted, we have a contribution agreement which specifically targets certain activities that need to be done. Activities in terms of settlement. So we do things like orientation sessions, information orientation sessions that are both individual and group. We do what's called community connections, which is a real focus because integration is the buzzword. It's all about integration, not assimilation, which is very different. We always tell the newcomers coming here, listen, you're here not to lose your culture. You are here to gain and add another one. And the bottom line is, Canada is different. It's different than almost every country other people come from. There are not just nuances, there are very large gaps. We find that within the workplace context. Different cultures have different attitudes within their workplace. So those are the kinds of things we deal with. So that's the sort of essence. So we have a settlement program, and they work on settlement issues. What do you need? Is housing an issue, etc.? Are you food safe? What do you want? Well, I like my spouse she just landed, I'd like to get a job. So we have an employment officer as well, who works specifically with the permanent resident population. Then from there you have kids in school. So we have what's called the Settlement Workers in Schools program. We are currently in 4 school divisions. Pine Creek, Beautiful Plains, Rolling River, and Park West School Division. And I've just placed a satellite officer or settlement worker and schools officer out of Binscars to cover that whole school division because they're getting a lot of newcomers come over there. And it made sense rather than have somebody always having to drive up and back and forth. You want somebody who lives within your community, right? We've all seen the workers or the project officers who live outside and come in here and think they know what they're doing. They don't understand their community. So living and working within the community makes sense. So we've got 3 workers and 1 coordinator in that program. So I have 4 staff in that program. So 2 settlement workers, 4 staff in Swiss. We have an admin and sort of finance person. The admin assistant is largely for me because, as you know, as things grow, the bureaucracy and the financial obligations and all that kind of thing come into play, and I just don't have time to be with clients anymore, which really saddens me, except if I'm doing a crisis debriefing or some special counseling. We also have an intake person who also is our volunteer coordinator. Beware, communities or organizations that are around, you're going to be hit up by our volunteer coordinator to see how we can partner. Because bottom line is, if you're working in a rural area, networking and partnerships are the name of the game. You're going to succeed or fail based on how you partner and how you collaborate and how you network. So we do an awful lot of that. Then in addition, we have a child minding, so that anyone who's attending any kinds of programs that we offer, we have 2 child minders who will provide child minding from ages 18 months to 12 years of age on site. We have 2 part-time teachers. We have an EAL, English as an Additional Language training program. It's nationally certified. And we have 6 classes. 3 morning classes, 3 evening classes, one of which I have deployed since November down to Carberry to deal with some temporary foreign worker Ukrainians. The Ukrainians that have come over on the Kiewit are not refugees, so let's be clear. They are considered to be temporary foreign workers, which is challenging because we're a PR organization. But we have been tasked with making our services available last fiscal year, this past one, and going forward. So where am I at now? And then I added 2 additional programs. One of the things, we can deal with youth, we can deal with adults. We do not have anything dealing with preschool. There is an existing program that's been around in one form for probably about 40 or 50 years called the HIPPY program. Home instruction for parents and something in youth. I can never remember it. I just remember being a hippie in the 70s. So it's focused on ages 3 to 5 to help. It's a home visitor-based program to help newcomer parents work with their children to prepare them for entry into kindergarten. It was originally designed for single moms, a low socioeconomic situation, to help in that, and it sort of has been readapted to work with newcomers. And it's really quite good. We're very pleased with it, very exciting with what's happening. That was an amendment I got in September, a short term. The other amendment is something I've been after for a long time. It's one thing to look from 3 to 5. Your critical developmental years are 0 or prenatal to 3. I have been on about it, and actually IRCC has been very responsive, gave me a pilot project, and it's blown me away because it means we're able to start dealing with newcomer parents with in the prenatal state, and then from birth to 3 to work on early development, especially critically the first year, but the first year 3 are important. Infant mental health, brain development, how you learn play-based learning, all sorts of things. It's been wonderful. 3 months of research, we've had 3 months of practice, and those 3 amendments, because the person going up into Park West School Division was an amendment, I've just been notified today they're going to be continued, which is really exciting. So we're looking at, we can go from birth to death and provide services as a continuum. The number of things we engage, the town is a regular contributor. But not only that, CRA, RCMP, we've had corrections people involved. Anybody and anyone who has something that relates to how we live in Canada, how that would facilitate integration, we'll partner with. And people have been exceedingly responsive. And I must say, one of the most common things we hear from newcomers about Neepawa, people say hello, I don't know who they are. People smile at the street. They feel incredibly welcome. CBC was here last year for Filipino Heritage during that period of time, or around that time. And I spoke to one of the people there. They were wondering what was going on underneath. It couldn't be what it was, what it looked like. And they said, you know what? There is nothing underneath. It is what it is. People are happy. People like settling here. This is a really good community. So it's been very positive all the way around. To give you a little bit of information, I think I've covered, we have also free transportation available for our clients. who are able to, who need to come to a program, whether that's language, whether that's a visit for a settlement worker. So we have free transportation, they can get there, especially in winter, or they don't have a vehicle, that kind of thing. One of the things, because our big gap is being temporary foreign workers, a year and a half ago, I was able to access some funding through a different federal government, Employment and Social Development Canada, targeted, because this was a COVID initiative, specifically for temporary foreign workers. I'm delighted to say I've kept it since October of 2021, and we're going through to 2024. A full-time employee, so they now can meet and do, because High Life is really good at inviting us to all the orientations and new deployment. Start talking then, so there's not that 2-year gap before typically we were able to access them before. So I'm going to give you a little bit of statistics. Since 2008 to February of this year, we estimate just over 5,000 clients served. This past fiscal year, we have served just over 900 clients. Around 400 of which are brand new clients, and 500 are returning clients. We are a very vibrant agency, a very vibrant community, and they say it takes a community to raise a child, and that's so true. It takes a community to respond to needs like this. Making that comment, one of the things we found out in our research project, our pilot project, one of the comments coming back was, we come from a country where our children are raised by extended family and community. We come to Canada and we don't know what to do. We don't know quite how to parent here. And you've got different laws around discipline, about other things. So what really is exciting me about that pilot project is we are able to get in at the ground level, and it's not a home visitors program. It is focused on groups of parents, and the discussions and stuff that's coming out is just blowing me away. The rest of us really surprised us, changed the direction of the program to be very positive. That's the kind of evolution that's happened in this program. New stuff coming in. We were one of the 5 in the province that piloted the Settlement Workers in Schools program before it became more common, and before it even went to the urban sector. There were 5 rural agencies, we were one of them. You need to be forward-thinking, you need to be prepared to think outside the box, you need to be prepared to ask people to engage, to be part of the process, and so there we are. And that sort of sums up the sort of general presentation I wanted to say. Are there any questions? We've talked before, I will say, we're not hitting every mark. We still are struggling to figure out how we engage with the agricultural community. We've had this comment before. I think the last time Representative Darrell brought it up, and we've not made too much headway with that. But I've engaged in some sort of provincial kinds of support organizations that I think may help us prepare people for that. And you need to know that the actual national average for newcomer landings, PRs, engaging in agencies like ours is not that high. It's less than 50%. There's a real struggle across the country to do that. We're different here. They get off the plane on Saturday, they come to Neepawa, they get their deployment, and they hear about us right away. And we're here in town, so that whole sort of process lends itself to us seeing probably 80% of all newcomers who land.
In part 2 of this week's council meeting, they return to the regular business of council reports, financial reports, public works, and ongoing projects. You can view end-to-end coverage of the town council meeting elsewhere in the NACTV schedule, including immediately following this. If you have comments, questions, or topics we might be able to help shine some light on, please do reach out. The number is 476-2639. Email at nactnews@gmail.com, or on social media at Neepawa TV. Thanks for joining me, and I hope to see you again next time.